Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier, my colleague from Maryland, Mr. Raskin, asked the panel how many people here believe that child separation is an effective policy in deterrence. And no one on the panel raised their hand. I just wanted to note that for the record, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask a question from Professor Mukherjee. Is the United States violating or violated human rights agreements set by the United Nations in a family separation policy?
Yes. International law is clear that family unity should be prioritized.
So we, as members of the United Nations, signed on into an international human rights agreement saying very clearly that family separation is a violation of international human rights, and then we pursued a policy that violates human rights. You know, Mr. Chair, I was looking, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point where we take children out of mothers' and fathers' arms? And, you know, it dated back, family separation in the way that we have seen it, where we take children away from their parents without due process, began last year under Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, but I had to dig further, and our staff dug further. But where did this start within the administration? She implemented it, and we found a memo. It dates back to April 23rd of 2018, where there was an official recommendation to, quote, pursue prosecution of all amenable adults who cross our border, quote, illegally, even though this applied to legal asylum seekers in practice, including those presenting with a family unit between ports of entry in coordination with DOJ. Here is the memo that I would like to submit to the congressional record.
What is the date on that?
It is the memorandum for the Secretary from Homeland Security.
Date.
April 23rd, 2018, subject increasing prosecutions of immigration violations.
Without objection.
And so I looked at this memo, and it seems like this is the source of it. And it seems as though, Mr. Homan, that you are the author. It says here from yourself, Kevin Michalinen, and Francis Cisna. Is this correct? Did you sign the memo?
I'd have to see what you...
I'd be happy to provide it. And we'll provide it over, but I would like to note that here it says the official recommendation. There were 3 different options presented. The third included the option for family separation. This initiative would pursue prosecution of all amenable adults, including those presenting with a family unit. Mr. Homan, your name is on this, is this correct?
Yes, I signed that memo.
So you are the author of the family separation policy?
I am not the author of this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Homan,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the memo is submitted to the record for review. Inspector General Costello, one last thing. Is there a record, based on reports throughout the year, and in our hearing earlier this year, we spoke with Ms. Juarez, a mother who lost her child due to inhumane conditions in the facilities. We learned that there is no accurate record and no policy being held of people who are pregnant and people who endure miscarriages. Is there a record of who enters and leaves these facilities?
I'm not familiar with the instance you're talking about, but I do believe the facilities keep custody logs and logs, but I'm not familiar with the incident you're talking about.
And where would we find those records?
I believe all the facilities keep them on site, CBP and ICE facilities.
And if you believe that the records are not accessible, or if we find that the records are not accessible, do you believe the committee should seek to request records from DHS on the location of children and those that are detained?
Well, we would never opine about what the committee would request and not request, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Homan, the actions you took when you were director of ICE were entirely consistent with the law of the land, weren't they?
Yes, when someone's prosecuted for a crime, the child can't go to jail with the parent.
Yep.
That happens to American families every day.
Yeah, and if we, as you said, I think earlier, if we don't like the law, last time I checked, it's the folks sitting up here got to change it.
Yeah.
And you've offered, I think, no more than 4 times, 3 changes to the law that would help the situation. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Maybe make it a 5th time. Can you say it a 5th time for this group? Just, because, again, we're the ones that have to change the law. So give us that recommendation a 5th time, the 3 things that we got to do.
If we would close the loopholes in the TVPRA, where children in Central America are treated the same as children in Mexico, if we would change the Flores settlement agreement so we can actually detain families in family setting long enough to see a judge and plead their case, if we can change the rules of asylum so it makes more sense so 90% of the people don't pass the first interview and a lot fewer pass in front of a judge, those 3 things would make a big difference on the border and decrease the illegal entry.
Because those 3 things go to the heart of the matter. They go to the incentive. Is that right?
They go to incentive along with the other things, such as talking about abolishing ICE, having no detention, free education,
Yeah.
free medical care, citizenship for those who are here illegally. When you keep offering incentives for people to come, sanctuary cities, come to this country, you'll be protected from ICE. As long as you keep having this language, more people who are vulnerable people are going to keep trying to come.
Those kind of statements made by Democrats in the United States Congress or in positions of influence in this country, they have an impact, don't they?
They have a significant impact.
When a member of Congress says abolish ICE, when another member of Congress says abolish DHS, when the Speaker of the House says walls are immoral, when the person who gave the State of the Union response to the President's State of the Union says she's okay with non-citizens voting, that all has an impact, doesn't it? Just like the laws that you're sworn to uphold and impact and do when you're the director of ICE.
It has a significant impact, and if this would have been fixed years ago, we probably wouldn't have seen zero tolerance. We wouldn't see the conditions on the border today.
But because the laws haven't been changed, because of the statements that have been made, there was a crisis. There is a crisis on the border. And that just didn't happen yesterday. No. Right? You think about this. There was a crisis. The administration asked for help. Democrats say it's contrived, it's manufactured, it's fake, it's not real. Then when the crisis, the real crisis, gets actually worse, the Democrats blame the administration for the very crisis they helped create by the things they said and the fact it won't change the law. But somehow, it's your problem. Somehow, it's the president's problem. And we have Ms. Costello, who went down there, her team went down there and looked this all over as the Inspector General, said there's some concerns that she has, and the cause of the concerns they're trying to ascertain. Now, she also said agents are doing, I think your statement was, agents are doing their level best. Is that right, Ms. Costello?
That's the experience of our inspectors.
So the Inspector General goes down there with your team, and you conclude the agents, the people that Mr. Homan used to represent, are doing their darn best they can do, but they're overwhelmed. And then you also said in your statement, in your answers a few minutes ago, you're trying to ascertain the cause. Well, that's pretty simple to figure out the cause. It's the numbers. In October, 60,000 apprehensions and inadmissibles on the border, October of last year. You know what it was in May of this year? 144,000. We know the cause. They're all coming. And they're coming because things the other side's saying, and the fact we won't change 3 fundamental things in the law. And it also might help, Mr. Homan, it also might help because these are the ones that, these are apprehensions, these people presenting themselves at ports of entry. It also might help if we build a border security wall, right? Instead of having the Speaker of the House say they're immoral, even though there's one in her state, it might actually help if we built the border security wall that the American people voted this president in office to do. It might actually help if we did that. Would you agree, Mr. Homan?
Absolutely. Every place they build a border barrier, every single place they build a border barrier, illegal immigration decreased.
Yeah, it would help with some of the tragic things that we have heard about, tragic situations that we've heard about the last couple of days, this entire week in this committee, that no one wants to see happen. The young mother who lost her daughter, it's tragic. No one wants those, but if we did the things you're talking about, we could help avoid some of those kind of incidents from happening in the future. Is that right, Mr. Homan?
Yeah, if I can respond
And
to
you're
that.
you're the guy who has lived it, breathed it, felt it, managed it. You know more than, you have more expertise in this area than anyone in this room. Is that right?
I believe so, but let me
I know
respond.
so.
Let me respond to the one child that died. It's tragic, tragic.
Sure is.
But you know, as long as we're showing a lot of pictures, if I can have just 30 seconds. Here's a picture. Her name is Serenity. She was 9 months old, 9 months, raped and murdered by an illegal alien because of open borders policy. Here's Irana. She was 5 years old, raped repeatedly and murdered by an illegal alien. Here's Louise Solowin. She was 93, multiple rapes and murdered by an illegal alien. Here's a 16-year-old. Here's a law enforcement officer. I got hundreds of these in my desk drawer. So I've seen tears for people today, and I understand that. It's tragic when anybody dies. But let's not forget the angel moms and dads who I've all met and got to know. Their children died, and they're separated forever. It's not a matter of location. They're dead. And a secure border would help prevent some of this. Sanctuary cities does not help this. Sanctuary cities this will increase because of the push of sanctuary cities. Come to our country, we'll protect you. You can even commit a crime, be in our county jail, we're not going to ice into the jail. So he'll go out, recidivism rates, anybody can look them up. 50% reoffend the first year, up to 75 recidivate within 5 years. They're in the country illegally in violation of federal law. They're locked up in a county jail. Let us have access to them and do our job.